Hey guys, so this is my second attempt at filming a May wrap-up and sort of June TBR. The other one kind of screwed up and it's really hot in my room, so I'm just going to go right through this pretty fast. This month wasn't the greatest reading month. One of my friends was here for a few weeks in the beginning of the month and then left, and he's gone now. And most of the time that I would normally spend reading was spent hanging out with him a little bit. And I was also just a little bit stressed with work and just wasn't reading as much as I usually would. Wasn't getting that much sleep basically the entire month. I'm not really sure why. But I only read like 4.5 books plus one graphic novel this month. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with what I got through. I really enjoyed pretty much everything I read this month, so it has been a good month in that way. The first book I read this month was I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I was going to do a review of this and a book-to-movie comparison, but it kind of got a little bit lost in my schedule to do that, and I probably won't do it now. It's a little bit too late for me to do it now. And honestly, the movie is just so much different from this book that doing a comparison really wouldn't have been that great in the first place. Like this little thing on here that says now a major motion picture starring Will Smith the movie is completely different. The main character is literally completely different. The creatures are pretty freaking different. Everything is really different. The entire story is very, very different. And I don't think the movie was necessarily trying to be exactly like the book or anything like the book at all, really. It was just kind of a little bit of an inspiration, and overall comparing the two just wouldn't have been all that great in the first place. But I did really enjoy this a lot. I give 4 out of 5 stars. In the movie, the creatures are kind of like these weird mix between zombies and vampires, but in this book they are definitely like vampires. In the movie, the main character is a doctor, and he's not in the book. Like I said, the main character is completely different. Robert Neville, the main character, is the last man in like New York City, I think, and he is basically surrounded by all these vampire people that are people he once knew and have been affected by this thing that turned them into vampires. And it's really, really awesome. I really enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed that it was different from the movie, because as I was reading it, I really felt like I wasn't affected at all by the movie while I was reading it, which made it completely different, which just made it really fun to read, and I really enjoyed that. And I really see how this was definitely a really iconic book to have such a big effect on other horror writers. It did drag in some places. Some things kind of seemed to go on longer than they needed to, and the ending was a little bit weird. The entire last third of this book was a little bit weird, but at the same time I did really enjoy reading it a lot. The next thing I read was Saga. It's a graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I really liked this. The illustrations are amazing, of course, and it's written really well. It just didn't capture my attention the way that I was hoping it would. It really only because it's so short. The fact that it is so short really doesn't get me into it at all. I really felt like I didn't get into it in the slightest. I mean, I didn't really feel like I needed to pick up the second and third one right away, and I still haven't picked them up, although I definitely plan to. I already have them, and I really think the more I get into the series, the more and more I'll love it. But as this stands alone, it was only like a 4 out of 5. It really didn't do as much for me as it does for some other people, at least not on its own. The characters were pretty interesting. I just didn't feel like I got into them nearly enough to care yet about the story. Hopefully that'll change, and I think it will change the more and more I read it. Then I read The Name of the Wind by Rothfuss. I really love this a lot. This was like a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me, and kind of began a huge fantasy binge, and I just really enjoy this a lot. The main character, Quoth, is like the voice of the story, and I really like his voice a lot. I really like Rothfuss's writing style. Like I said in my review, and you can go watch my review to really get a feel for all of my thoughts on this book. This is really the story about Quoth. Everything about this is Quoth. The driving force is Quoth, and if you don't like Quoth, then you most likely won't like the book. But for me, Quoth was a really fun character to read about, and I really enjoyed reading about his story. I really enjoyed reading about this world, and I just really enjoyed reading Rothfuss's writing style. The next book I read was The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. This is like the sort of expansion, the first expansion into the Mistborn world after the Mistborn trilogy. Brandon Sanderson has tons of plans for that world and tons of plans to expand on Mistborn, and I really love that a lot. This book in particular was amazing. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a whole lot of fun. By the time this video is up, there should be a review up of this. Kind of taking me a while to post, but it should be up by now. The main characters, Wax and Wayne, are a ton of fun to read about. I really enjoyed the look into a sort of more modern take on the world that Mistborn took place in, as this takes place 300 years after the original Mistborn trilogy. And although you can read this without reading the original Mistborn trilogy, I definitely don't suggest that or recommend that whatsoever, because there's a huge amount of backstory to get in the original Mistborn trilogy, and he kind of leaves that out a lot in this book, which I think is a good decision because the story moves really well in this book. And filling it up with too much information about what happened in the original Mistborn trilogy just would have muddled it down a bit and would have been a bit unnecessary, but it is definitely necessary to know some of those things, I think. Although you definitely can read this without reading the original Mistborn trilogy, although I don't really know why you would want to. But yeah, like I said, this was really great. I really loved it, and it was a lot of fun to read. The main characters especially just were a lot of fun to read about. Then I read The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This book I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my new favorite fantasy books. The main character, Locke Lamora, is freaking awesome. The story is awesome. Scott Lynch's writing style is amazing and hilarious. It is so well paced, and I really, really enjoyed pretty much the entire thing all the way through. I enjoyed all of the characters, all of the dialogue, all of the situations, and all of the ways that the main character and his group, the Gentlemen Bastards, got out of those situations. I really just enjoyed everything about this. Honestly, I would recommend this to anybody, even if you don't really like fantasy that much. I don't think the fantasy aspects of it are too strong for you not to like this. I think the story itself is just really amazing. The writing itself is really amazing. I really think most anyone would like this book. And you can go watch my review on this to learn more about it and learn more about what I thought about it. The last book, I'm a little bit more than halfway through, is The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the sequel to The Name of the Wind. After finishing The Name of the Wind, I just couldn't wait to pick up the next installment in Quoth's story. I really wanted to know what happened next in Quoth's story. And in this book, I really feel like Quoth is even better. I really like his character even better than I did in the first one. I enjoyed the writing in this even better than I did in the first one. I enjoyed the pacing in this even more than I did in the first one. And overall, this has just been a huge amount of fun to read so far. Although I have gotten to this point a little bit over 600 pages long, and if you've read it, you might know what I'm talking about, where it's kind of slowed down a little bit. And we were just at this point that was really great, and then all of a sudden, like literally out of nowhere, we just jumped right into this next section that I've been stuck on a little bit. That's just going really slowly, and I don't really see the point of. It's kind of dragging along, and I don't really understand why it's in here. I'm kind of hoping it's finished with very soon and we can move on to something else, because I don't really like this section of the book that much. I kind of feel like I'm just glossing over some things in this section just because it just seems like it's going on for way too long, and it just came out of nowhere. I don't understand what it's doing for the story. Maybe I will after it's done. Hopefully it'll have some sort of contribution to the overall story that will make sense after the section's over. But as it stands right now, I'm just not really into this section of the book. I really hope the last like few hundred pages are really great, because everything leading up to this point has been amazing. And like I said, I'm just really enjoying this so far. This is the first book I'm going to finish in June, and though I don't necessarily have a set June TBR, there are a few books that I know for a fact that I want to read. The first one is Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt. Alicia sent me this book for my birthday, and she really loves it. A lot of people really love this book. Everyone that I've heard talk about this book really loved it a lot, and I really want to read it right away. I'm really excited to read it, and I'm really excited to share my thoughts on it. So I'm definitely going to be reading this as soon as I finish The Wise Man's Fear. Then after that, I'm going to be reading a book that I don't necessarily want to mention by name right now, because I want it to be a bit of a surprise. Because sometime, hopefully by the end of the week, there should be a video up about it, just about this book. It's a new release, and if you know anything about me, you might know what I'm talking about already. It comes out this week, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway, and yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about when that video comes out. Like I said, some people might already know what I'm talking about. For the rest of you, it'll be a bit of a surprise, maybe. And then I also want to read Weed the Drowned by Karsten Jensen. Me and Aaron at Cedar Sun, he's been really wanting to read this book. He's had it for a while, and we were talking about maybe doing a read-along. I don't know if he's still up for that, because he's reading Infinite Jest right now, and that book takes a lot of concentration and a lot of time, and I'm not sure if you'll still want to read this along with me, but I know for a fact I'm going to be reading this month because I just really want to. For some reason, I'm just like really excited to read this. Something about it just draws me into it quite a bit, and I can't wait to read it very soon. And the last book I know for a fact I'm going to be reading this month is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I already said in my summer reading video that I'm going to try to read the first 3 books of the Song of Ice and Fire series by the end of the summer, and this is where it all begins. I really hope I can get into the series as much as other people are. It sounds like it'll be really good, and I really hope I enjoy it. And yeah, that's it for my May wrap-up and sort of June TBR. Let me know any opinions on anything I've talked about in this video. I'm going to have a May films wrap-up. I'm going to talk about a few movies and some TV shows as well from May. That video will be up very soon, so if you're interested in that, look out for that, I guess. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with more.